What's going on, guys? It's Danny from Fantasy Stock Exchange here, and today I'll be bringing forth my top Week 12 waiver wire pickups of the week. Obviously, as you guys know, going in depth on my favorite 5 names that you can currently get off the waiver wires. And typically, I usually go at about 50% or under, but because waivers, if you were to limit to that, would be so bleak, and there are a couple names that were under 60% that are well worth a spot on this video, I raised the standard. So today I'll be talking about guys that are rostered in 60% or less in Yahoo Fantasy leagues. And there are a couple absolute doozies on this list. So make sure you watch this video to full length. Again, as always, if you enjoyed this type of content, in your face type of content that you can watch while you're making your coffee, while you're making your breakfast, while you're eating, getting ready for your meetings, leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. Currently on the road to 10,000 subscribers. We appreciate every single one of you. But with that being said, before we get into the first waiver, as always, we're going to hit the intro. All right, so let's start off with the first waiver of the week. And I know, I get it. If you guys are used to the old format, I'm basically cheating here, going at under 60%. But the fact that Elijah Moore is not owned in more than 58% of current leagues right now is just absolutely baffling. I mean, this is a kid that has exploded onto the scene these past few weeks, and his past week was by far his best week, his best game as a pro thus far. His usage was phenomenal. His stat line, 8 catches, 141 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown on 11 targets. I mean, this guy was doing it in a tough matchup against Miami. Imagine what he's going to be able to do down the stretch. I think this is going to be a locked and loaded top 30 wide receiver down the stretch, maybe even fringe top 24. And I hope you guys bought him in Dynasty, because his absolute low value that he was even 4 or 5 weeks ago when everybody was doubting Zach Wilson, when everybody was doubting Elijah Moore, I think he's basically supplanted himself as a top 24 wide receiver in Dynasty specifically. But in terms of redraft, I mean, if he's seeing this insane usage, you guys can see Jared Small actually tweeted this out from Draft Sharks. But Elijah Moore's week 11 usage, 80% of the snaps, 81% of the routes, and 11 targets for a 28% target market share on this team. The main bugaboo, the main worry about Elijah Moore earlier this season was the fact that he wasn't getting the usage we expected out of the 34th overall pick, but he's finally getting it, and he's finally performing. In terms of FAAB, listen, if you're holding on to FAAB at this point, I would be willing to bid it on, because I do think this guy's going to be a locked and loaded wide receiver 3, similar expectations to guys like Devonta Smith and Jalen Waddle for the rest of the season. So I'm absolutely all in on Elijah Moore, and I'm sure if you guys watch the channel going into the season, you guys already know our thoughts on him over at the Fantasy Stock Exchange. But anyways, that went a little long-winded. Had to explore some love, had to show some love for my, obviously, my main boo in Elijah Moore. But let's get on to the next waiver claim of the video, and that's going to be Darnell Mooney, wide receiver from the Chicago Bears, currently only rostered in 58% of Yahoo Fantasy leagues. And listen, again, we talked about Elijah Moore's usage, but Darnold Mooney has also been a receiver that's been seeing elite usage these past few weeks. 16 target game this past week with A-Rob missing, and he has 31 targets in his last 3 games played. And with A-Rob not practicing this past Monday with his hamstring injury, you guys can see that on the screen, Darnell Mooney should be a locked and loaded top 30 play this week on Thursday, going up against the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving. So in terms of FAAB, again, you mentioned at this point, going into week 12, you guys need to make the playoffs. You have 3 games left to make the playoffs. Bid all your FAAB, because you're not going to get more than decent flex plays. I think Mooney and Elijah Moore, as I mentioned, could be really good flex plays for you. So bid that FAAB, get Mooney, get Elijah Moore. Those guys were pretty obvious. That's why I had to up the threshold from 50 to 60%, because it would have been criminal not to mention both of those receivers' names. But anyways, let's get into the first running back of the video. That's going to be Ty Johnson, running back from the New York Jets, currently only rostered in 21% of Yahoo Fantasy leagues. And the main concern here, the main issue here, why is Ty Johnson a pickup? Well, you guys can see over my shoulder right now, Adam Schefter reports Michael Carter suffered a high ankle sprain and will miss the next 2 to 3 weeks. What are the implications here? Well, Michael Carter, as we know, has been that team's main lead back, particularly on third downs and passing downs. I think Ty Johnson has a bit of juice in the ground game, but obviously the main flavor here. The main reason why we want to go pick him up is the fact that he does have pass game utilization, pass game upside, which we have seen even when Michael Carter was healthy, that he was getting targets in the passing game. So with Michael Carter expected out, Tevin Coleman's absolute dust. I mean, we've seen it this year. He's been one of the most inefficient running backs in the league once he's gotten any type of work. At least Ty Johnson has some breakaway, some juice, some pass catching upside, to the point where if I'm in desperate need of a flex, half PPR, full PPR, I'm willing to bid a decent chunk of FAAB to ensure I get Ty Johnson on my team with this Michael Carter news. So again, mentioning FAAB, whatever, like, realistically here, you could probably get him for about 20%, but if you have to go more, I honestly don't mind just blowing the FAAB at this point, because what are you waiting for if you still have FAAB? So anyways, a little bit long-winded, but let's get on to the next name of the video, and that's going to be Austin Hooper, tight end from the Cleveland Browns, currently only rostered in 22% of Yahoo Fantasy leagues. And obviously we know the main news here for Austin Hooper, again, he had a decent game, 4 catches for 53 yards in a game that ultimately Baker Mayfield struggled. But the main thing I have here is the fact that both Jarvis Landry and Donovan Peoples-Jones are in fact injured going into Sunday's game. So, I mean, obviously with Jarvis Landry, he aggravated his knee injury in week 11 against the Lions. Donovan Peoples-Jones wasn't even capable of suiting up against the Lions, and is dealing with a groin injury, who, as we know, as we've seen in the past, groin injuries typically nag, especially at a position like the receiver position, for a while. So I don't expect either of those two wideouts to suit up. So when you're talking about Austin Hooper, I mean, if he's working basically as the number one quote unquote weapon, if you will, in this offense, it's not going to be a high volume passing offense. You already know that. We know they're going to lean on the run. They're going to lean on Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt if he's healthy, or Dearness Johnson. But if you're getting, an average offense's number one weapon, even if it's lower volume, at the tight end position, which we know is going to be extremely scarce, he's worth a bid. He's worth a waiver pickup. And especially at this point, if you're desperate at tight end, I think you can expect locked and loaded, like top 12 to 15 type of upside for Hooper if those two receivers are in fact out. So don't mind going to scoop Hooper. The fact that we're even mentioning Hooper on a waiver video just kind of goes to show you how weak this week 12 waiver class is. But either way, I think he's going to be a fine tight end. If you need a tight end, he's a fine name to go pick up. So anyways, off of Austin Hooper, we get into the final name of the video. And I mentioned that tight end position is kind of scarce, kind of, you don't know what you're going to get. Well, the quarterback position is kind of the opposite this year. Outside of the elite guys, you just got a bunch of, decent options on a week-to-week basis. Well, I actually think that Cam Newton could end up being a very good option if what we saw this past Sunday comes to fruition for the rest of the season. He's currently only rostered in 52% of Yahoo leagues, and had in his first start playing with the Panthers yet again, he was in fact the quarterback 7 this week, and we saw the rushing ability, the Konami code ability that we know of Cam Newton. He had 10 carries for 46 yards and a rushing touchdown, in conjunction with going 21 for 27 in the air, about 200 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. And his next 2 games, Miami this week, then they got a bye. Then he goes up against the Atlanta Falcons. So he's a good stash quarterback type of pickup. Obviously, if you have, like a guy like Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, Kirk Cousins, a lower upside type of quarterback as your starter, I don't mind picking up Cam Newton to get that injection of upside, that injection of, league winning, league breaking type of upside that obviously Cam Newton offers with his legs. So in terms of rest of season projection, rest of season ranking, I think you can make the case that he's a top 12 to 15 quarterback, given the nature of his legs and given the nature of that offense with Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, and Robbie Anderson. So I really like Cam Newton. And again, if you need, again, upside at the position, I think he offers that in abundance. But off of the top 5 waiver pickups of the week, pretty standard. If you guys have any FAAB, they'd be worth your FAAB, absolutely. But I'm going to get into guys that either I've mentioned ad nauseum on this channel recently, or just missed the cut of this top 5. But let's start off with Michael Gallup. I mean, it's pretty typical. It's pretty standard. He's over the threshold here, but if Michael Gallup is available in your leagues, he shouldn't be. Like, he should be well at 100% ownership, especially with the Amari Cooper vaccination status, obviously on the COVID list, and with CeeDee Lamb dealing with that concussion. I expect that the Cowboys offense isn't going to look like complete dog piss for the rest of the season, even though they look like that against the Chiefs. Gallup is going to be that number 1 wide receiver expectedly. Again, I don't think Lamb's going to play. obviously on Thursday, Thanksgiving against the Las Vegas Raiders. So absolutely love Michael Gallup. You guys know that. Rashad Bateman, pretty typical. I talked about him basically the last 6 weeks, but he had a down game with Tyler Huntley. But for God's sake, did you guys watch Tyler Huntley play? That guy is absolutely atrocious. So I do think that my Rashad Bateman, once Lamar Jackson is, getting that Benadryl, feeling better, is going to be able to operate as that number 3, number 2 potential weapon in what's actually been a decently high-paced, high-volume Ravens passing offense. So absolutely love Rashad Bateman. Ramondre Stevenson, it's pretty simple. Damon Harris is a 2-down banger. Brandon Bolden's a 3rd-down pass catching back. And Stevenson's a little bit of both. I mean, he's got the workhorse between the tackles potential, but also has some pass game juice. So out of all the options in that backfield, I would prefer Stevenson at face value. And the only reason he's not on this list, obviously, is the fact that I talked about him last week, and he's already over that threshold that I mentioned. But again, if he is available, go pick him up. Final 2 names, kind of similar type of players, but I would much rather Kadarius Toney to Laviska Shenault. I'll say that right now. The only concern I have with Toney and why he wasn't in the top 5 is the fact that he actually suffered a quad contusion against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. So I don't know about the status just yet. If he's fully healthy, he's absolutely worth a top 5 pickup, but we'll know more by the time you guys have to submit those waivers. Hopefully by later today. You guys watching this on Tuesday. So love Toney. 7 for 40, had 12 targets. He looked decent. He looked like the number 1 weapon on that New York Giants passing game. So can move off him. Finally, Laviska Shenault, kind of tied into the Jamal Agnew injury, obviously going to be expected out for the season. And we saw Laviska Shenault at least had a decent role this past week, putting up a 5 for 50 line. So maybe that signs to come. This is still a talented player, especially with the ball in his hands. Hopefully they keep getting involved. But anyways, we're about 12 minutes in. Hopefully you guys got that nice digestible information. Your coffee's probably done at this point. So make sure you leave a like in this video and pay attention to Bush's buy low targets coming out later today. So anyways, hope you guys enjoy your Tuesday and peace out.